Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is everything I made in my first year of knitting. I started knitting in April of 2025. We're now in April of 2026, so it's been a whole year. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a really good experience for me. I think it's taught me a lot, obviously about knitting, but about a lot of other things as well. I decided to pick it up as a bit of a challenge to myself, really. I had started getting TikToks of people knitting and I thought, their stuff looks amazing, I don't know if I could ever achieve that. And then I kind of took a step back and thought, why do I think like that? Why couldn't I achieve it? I could give it a go. So that's what I did. And I started just kind of searching on TikTok to see what the best beginner patterns were, what did people recommend, how do you start? Because obviously you don't want to put a big investment into something that you're not going to keep up. There's so much great advice out there, and it persuaded me to give it a go. My auntie is a very keen knitter, so I've been very inspired by all the projects that she's worked on and the skills that she has. So I kind of taught myself into it and decided to give it a try, and I'm so glad that I did. I've learned so much. I really feel like it's given me quite a lot of confidence. And now, as you'll see, I've become a lot more adventurous with my knitting and a lot more creative with the projects that I take on. Really feels like the possibilities are endless, and I think that's such a fantastic thing about this skill is you can just keep going. There's no limit on the things that you can achieve through knitting. I have a background in fashion design, so I'm very familiar with garment construction and sewing. I think the skills I already have helped me to understand knitting a little bit quicker. So there was a bit less of a learning curve in that sense of how garments are constructed, what the shapes should look like, but there was still all the things to learn about how the stitches actually function and the way yarn is used. But for now, I will start showing you my projects. Like most knitters who've started knitting recently, the Sophie scarf was all over my TikTok, my Instagram, my YouTube, and I wanted to knit one, and I think it was a perfect starter project for me. Not only because it's very straightforward, but it's a good size of a project. Literally, you only need one ball. You're practicing the same skill over and over again. So by the end, you can see the improvement, which was really satisfying. You can see that you're getting better and better. Again, super easy to frog. I think I frogged this a few times when I was learning, and it just means you've not got that far to go to start again versus a jumper where if you frog it, you feel like you're really back at square one. So yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this. I didn't actually buy the pattern, which is not a great start, but I just watched YouTube videos and TikToks, and so many people had made it that it was really easy to follow along with those visuals, and I didn't feel like I was confident enough to follow a pattern. So that worked really well for me, and yeah, I think it's really cute. It's a nice one to bring in your handbag. Doesn't take up much space and it keeps you cozy when you need it. So yarn wise, because it was my first project, I just went to my local Hobbycraft and bought a kind of cheap, decent-ish yarn. You'll see with the rest of my projects, my yarn ambitions got much higher, but for starters, I think that's a really good way to begin. So yeah, I really enjoyed knitting this, and it's been a useful little project to have with me. For those of you that don't know, which I'm sure is very few of you, the Sophie scarf is patterned by Petite knit. I think it's probably one of the most popular patterns ever. I think almost every knitter has the Sophie scarf, and for good reason, to be honest. I know it's a simple pattern, but I think that's the beauty of it. It's simple, it's a nice, easy piece to have in your wardrobe. Then I had a little bit of yarn left over, so I made a tiny kind of triangular version, well, slightly more triangular version, for my dog. So my dog is a little poodle called Truffle, a little toy poodle. Me and him were matching, which is very cute. He doesn't really enjoy wearing it, but he will wear it if there's treats involved. So after I'd finished my Sophie scarf, I was feeling a little bit more ambitious and decided to follow a full written pattern. I wanted to do something that was kind of small, manageable, not too difficult to transport because I was travelling quite a lot at the time. So I chose to do the Oslo hat. So here is my Oslo hat. This is actually not the original Oslo that I'd made. So like I said, this was my first time following a pattern, and it was significantly more involved than the Sophie scarf. It's not a hugely complicated pattern, but there was definitely a jump in skill level. And my original hat was very, very short, and the decreases were very random. I'd not done a very good job of keeping track of them. But like I said earlier, the beauty of knitting is that nothing's ever permanent. I've done a lot of sewing previously, and with sewing, once you cut your fabric, that's it. Whereas with knitting, you can always go back, you can undo, you can rework it. It's never that final, which is something I really like about it. So I frogged my slightly dodgy version and re-knitted it with a little bit more yarn, more length, closer to the pattern. And this is how it came out. So for this, I used Rowan Felted Tweed in the colour Ginger, which is a really nice rusty orange colour, but I really like how it's got these little flecks of cobalt and a couple of other shades in there. It just gives it a bit more interest, so it's not completely flat. So I definitely use this yarn again. And I've had quite a lot of wear out of this hat through the winter. Although April's not exactly prime knitting time, it worked well for me to start then because I had kind of all of the spring and summer to get my skills up to a level where I felt confident making some really nice winter things once that time rolled around. So after those first couple of projects, I was starting to feel ready to do something bigger, and looking online, everyone was saying that the step-by-step sweater was the way to go, and that they were completely right. The step-by-step sweater is a pattern by Florence Muller. It's got a free YouTube tutorial and a free pattern that you can follow. It is so good. If you are someone who's wanting to learn to knit, this is the way to do it. I still think doing a couple of small projects is a good idea to kind of get your hand into it. You're not going to make a big investment in needles or yarn, but once you're feeling a little bit more confident and you've decided you want to learn fully, this is the way to do it. She teaches you every single step. You've got it in both written and video format, so you can cross-reference, which is super helpful. The yarn is really affordable. It's just a great way to start. I've recommended it to a few of my friends who are wanting to learn to knit, and I would recommend it to anyone else. It is such a good starting point, and you get a whole sweater at the end, which feels amazing. So this is mine. I used the recommended yarn, which is Drops Nepal, and the main colour for mine is beige, very boring, and then I've used one of their grey shades to do a bit of duplicate stitch on the sleeves, just because I wanted it to be a bit more exciting. She has options in the pattern for a folded collar and also for short rows in the back neck. I did both of those because I just wanted to learn as much as I could, and I'm really glad I did. I think without the short rows this would be quite tight across the neckline, but adding them in has really helped. I also added a split hem just because I don't really like things sitting tight across my hips, and I was a bit worried that it would. Looking back, I think it would have been fine without the split hem, but obviously this was my first jumper, so I didn't really know how that would pan out. It is obviously a very budget yarn, and I do think it's acted like a very budget yarn. My jumper's pilled quite a lot, but that's okay. I wasn't expecting miracles from it. It's still cozy, it's still comfy. I still enjoy wearing it, even if it's mostly around the house. For a first sweater project, I would say this is 100% the way to go. Looking at this now as a much more experienced knitter, I can see lots of mistakes in it, but that is all part of the progress and how I've grown from these first few projects to the things I'm working on now. So I think it's quite nice to see you learning through your work. So I was now starting to get a little bit more ambitious, and one of our good friends was turning 30, so I decided that I wanted to make him a present, and I knitted him some socks. These were the Broken Record Broken Rib socks, which is a free pattern by Alex Parker Mooney. I thought it was a great pattern, easy to follow, had a little bit of interest. I used a self-striping yarn from Opal, and I was really, really pleased with how these turned out. Again, they weren't perfect, but they were definitely good enough, and our friend really enjoys them. So I'm very happy with the result of that. Obviously I don't have them with me because they were a gift, and you'll see a few more things like this where a lot of my knitting this year was gift knits, for better or for worse. I don't think there'll be as many gift knits in the future, but I was very excited about the option to knit things for people. So a lot of people got knitting. So my next project was something that I was quite excited about. This was based on an image that I'd had saved on my Pinterest for quite a long time of this striped vest. I just thought it was really cute. The original brand was completely out of my budget, but I knew that I'd be able to knit something similar now. This is what I came up with. The pattern I used as the base was the Maggie vest, again by Petite. Don't worry, there's going to be a bit more variety in the future. But I found it really easy to follow. She had really clear instructions. I liked the construction of the vest. Obviously there's quite a lot of similar vest patterns, so it took me a while to choose or to sort of figure out which one was going to suit my concept best. But I'd seen on Ravelry a few other people had done a similar thing based on the same vest actually with the Maggie pattern, so I felt kind of confident that I would be able to do that. So obviously I added the stripes in, so that was a major change, but I also changed the button band. So this is now a double knit button band rather than, I think it's 1x1 rib in the pattern. So that was a bit of a learning curve. I frogged that a few times, but I'm actually really pleased with how it turned out. I made this in June, so I'd not been knitting very long at all at this point. I'm still really quite pleased with it. There's no mistakes that jump out to me. I'm hoping to wear it a bit more this spring. I've not actually got that much wear out of it yet. I knit this using Knitting for Olive, so again this was me getting a bit more adventurous with my yarn choices. We went down to a local yarn shop to pick these out, and they had some gorgeous colours. So it's Knitting for Olive merino held with their soft silk mohair. The red is actually Issachar silk mohair, but all the rest is Knitting for Olive, just because of the colours that were available in the shop. But I do have to say, the red is so soft. So I think if I was doing a more premium project again, I would really go for the Issachar mohair. It's lovely. So by this point I was fully committed to knitting, and I'd really caught the bug, and any spare minute of my day I was knitting. And I was ready to do a jumper that I felt was a bit more me. I'd done my vest project, I'd done my step-by-step. I wanted something that I felt was missing from my wardrobe and really sat in my style. So I cast on the Lakes V-neck by Ozetta. So I'm sure everyone is familiar with this pattern, but I do love this. I wear this jumper all the time. It's so cozy, it's so soft. The colour, I know it's maybe a bit of a statement colour for some people, but it just goes with everything. It fits really well in my wardrobe, and I love wearing it. So I knew I really wanted this kind of matcha green colour, so it took me a while to find just the right combination of yarn. I knew I wanted a mohair held with something else, and I didn't want to spend a fortune because I'm a cheapskate. There's not much more to it than that. I ended up using Drops Lima in colour 0705 and holding that with the Hobby Friends Kid Silk, which had this perfect shade for me, which was their olive shade, and that's what's given me this gorgeous colour. I really liked holding these two together because the Lima has a really nice bit of variation through the yarns. It's not completely solid, you get just a hint of the marl, which I love. I really enjoyed knitting this pattern. It's a nice gauge where it goes by quite fast. So you start with the two patches for the saddle shoulder, then you pick up along the back edge, you cast on in between, work your back yoke down to your underarm, and same across the front. You'll work your v-neck, join in the round, and then it's all pretty straightforward from there. I don't think I made any modifications to this pattern. So all my decrease rates, everything's exactly to pattern. And I think it's perfect as is. There's nothing I would change about it. I would maybe even make another one in the future. I have considered making the crew neck version. I don't think I would actually buy the pattern. I think I would just alter from the pattern I have. But yeah, I really, really like it. And like I said, I wear this all the time. So it's been a really good addition to my wardrobe. So after the lakes, I worked on a few smaller projects alongside quite a big one, which we will get to very soon. The first small one I finished up was this little scrunchie. I literally knitted this in an evening. It was so quick. I just wanted to have something simple to work on. And I really wanted a little scrunchie. So I made this just from some random yarn that I had in my loft. I don't think it's anything special. I think it's just a polyester kind of fluffy thing. But it's just really cute. And I really like wearing it when I've got my hair in a bun or tied up in a pony. Just a nice little pop of colour. So straightforward. I loosely followed the Bisous scrunchie by Camile K on Ravelry. But honestly, I just knit a kind of tube of stockinette and then bound off the edges together. That was all there was to it. So very simple, very quick. Makes a great gift, as you will see. So the next small project I worked on was a pair of socks for my husband. So he was getting jealous that I'd made socks for his friend, but not for him. So I had to make him a pair to compensate. So this is them. They're just vanilla socks. I just did a plain stockinette sock instead of the broken rib because I wanted it to go by a bit quicker. Which it did. It still took me a while. I also forgot to mention earlier, but I actually knit these socks and the pair before 2 at a time. Because I was quite worried about being able to get them to the same size. It took me quite a while to get my head around the cast on method, but once I did, it was fine. So I'd recommend that if you are concerned about matching up the lengths of the socks. You can't really go wrong when you're knitting them 2 at a time, but it does just take a little bit of adjustment to get your head around that method. So these were the same opal sock yarn that I knit the first pair in. You'll see I've matched up the stripes on these. That was because I bought 2 balls of the same self-striping and I made sure to start each ball at the same point to continue on that pattern. So that is why they match so well. If you want to match the stripes, then I would definitely recommend that. It worked really well. So by this time we were starting to get into colder weather. So in September I cast on the Ole mittens. So these are by Susanne Muller, and I loved this pattern. These are knit in half brioche, which is super squishy and lovely. I really liked the detail of the thumb. I just thought it looked really pretty, and I used my, I don't know if you can tell, my leftover drops Lima to make these, and I had pretty much the perfect amount, so that was great. Nice way to use up a bit of leftovers. They are super soft and squishy. They're really cozy. Because this is alpaca, it did stretch out a bit, so they can be a little bit long on my hands, just a tiny bit. But I think if I made them again, I would probably go slightly shorter just for a bit of a snugger fit. But they're really nice. I love wearing them. Keep me cozy in the winter. So I had picked up some blue cone yarn when I'd been down in England in a charity shop. It was like £1 or £2, very, very cheap. It said it was lamb's wool, loved the colour of it, but it was quite fine and I wasn't completely sure what to make with it. I found some mohair in Sostrenegrin, hopefully that's how you say that shop's name, and it was a really good match. So I bought 2 skeins of that and used it to make another Oslo hat. By this time I had knit this pattern quite a bit because I've remade the first one and now done this. So I knew the pattern really well, easy to do. This really didn't take me long. I casted it on the 19th of October and finished it up on the 26th. So it was a nice little speedy project. Love the colour, love the fluffiness. I wore this a lot, and that mohair keeps it really cozy. Not only have you got all the warmth from that triple brim, but the actual mohair too. It's really lovely to wear. And then the next thing I finished up was the big project that I was talking about. This was for my husband. It was at his request. He really loved this cardigan from Camile. He had been eyeing it up for years and years, and obviously it's quite expensive. It's hard to justify something like that. So when I started knitting, it was the thing that he wanted me to make him. And after working on a lot of these projects, I felt ready for a bit more of a challenge. So I agreed to make it for him. And here it is. So it is a button-up cardigan, kind of granddad style cardigan with skeleton motifs on it. So from the front it's kind of plain, and then on the back you've got the full skeleton. I couldn't find a pattern that ticked all those boxes. So what I ended up doing was using a pattern from Drops, which is their tweed casual cardigan. All the Drops patterns are free, but I did find it was a little bit harder to follow. Luckily I felt quite up on my techniques and the overall constructions by the time I knitted this, but I'd say if you're a beginner or an earlier stage beginner, it is a little bit difficult. You may be better off with a more detailed pattern. So I found the pattern and then I worked up my stitch charts to match it. So I created these in Stitch Fiddle, which if you're not familiar with, it's a really great free resource. There is a paid version as well, but I've only ever used the free one. And you can create stitch charts from scratch or using a photo. It kind of knows all the major yarn brands, so it'll add in the colours for you, which is so helpful. So yeah, I kind of created the chart for this, for the back and for the sleeves, and then got to work. So this pattern is knit bottom up, which I'd also not done before. That was a new construction for me. So you knit the front and back together as one flat piece all the way up until you reach the armholes, and then you work front shoulders and the back shoulders independently. Then the sleeves, again, these are knitted bottom up, so that was new for me too. By the time I got to the sleeves, I had had enough of intarsia. This was ambitious, and I probably should have duplicate stitched a lot more of it than what I did. I think I only really figured out that it would be a good idea to duplicate stitch once I got to the top, so I think it's just like these small panels and everything else is intarsia, which was a great learning curve. I feel confident with intarsia now, but it was hard going. So then by the time I got to the sleeves, I said, you can have the design on the sleeves, but it will not be intarsia. So this is duplicate stitched. It does feel a little bit heavier, but I didn't want to knit the sleeves flat, which I would have had to, and I just didn't want to do more intarsia. I was very much over it, and I knew that if I was doing the sleeves intarsia, I was going to spend another couple of months on this cardigan because I didn't want to do it. So once I'd finished the sleeves and the body, it all got seamed together. That was something new for me. I'd never seamed anything before. I kind of ended up doing it wrong, but I quite like the way it looks, so I just left it. It's kind of become a bit of a feature. And for the bottom band, I did a double knitted bottom band again, like I had done on my Maggie vest. So I just used all the same techniques. Obviously, instead of being 2 strips, it goes the whole way around, but it worked really nicely. I just think I really prefer the finish of double knitted bottom bands. I think it just looks cleaner, looks a bit more professional. I've never tried a rib bottom band, so maybe I would change my mind when I eventually do. But for now, yeah, double knit is the way for me. This cardigan took me a long time. My intention, I think I cast it on in September. And my intention was to have it finished for Halloween. I didn't get it finished until the 21st of November. And by that point, I was very happy to see the back of it. I'd had enough. But thankfully my husband wears it all the time. He really likes it, fits him really well. So I'm very pleased with how it turned out in the end. And I learned a lot doing this, so it was well worth it. I knit this with Drops Lima, and it was Drops mohair that I used with it as well, so similar to my Lakes V-neck. I found the yarns really easy to use. They've held up really well. This has been worn a lot and it's not bubbled at all, which is great. The only problem I had was doing the intarsia with mohair and the alpaca. It got really, really tangled, but that's more of a skill issue on my part than anything to do with the actual yarn. So after the cardigan was finished, my mind was turning to Christmas. I knew that I wanted to make people some presents. I knew that I couldn't make socks for everybody because that was taking me way too long at that time. And I'd seen the sailor slippers everywhere on social media. So I made 5 pairs of sailor slippers. I don't have any of them here because they were all gift, but here's a photo. So I made 5 different colourways, which I really liked. It was a really fun pattern, really speedy. I loved felting them. I enjoyed it all round, to be honest. Maybe by the 5th pair, my enjoyment was fading a little bit. But I did it. I completed them all. They were all done in time for Christmas. On the soles, I'd heard a lot of people say that they were quite slippy. So I borrowed some tulip puff paint from my mum. She's got a massive stash of everything crafty that I could ever need, thankfully. And I did some little designs on the soles just to give it a little bit more grip. One of the pairs I made was for my husband's granny, so I didn't want her sliding around the house and me being the source of an injury. And so far so good. No one's told me that they've fallen, so hopefully they haven't. But yeah, that was really fun, and everyone really liked them. Everyone was really pleased with their gift, so that was great. After that, I still was making more Christmas gifts. So this time it was for my uni friends. I made them all little scrunchies. Again, I don't have these with me. I don't even have a picture. So I drawn a picture of what they look like. I just used leftover bits and bobs, made them all with mohair. So I used some of this blue mohair, some of the black mohair from the skeleton cardigan, and a little bit of a random kind of coral pink one that, again, I just had it in my loft from general craft stuff. They were all really pleased with them, and nice, easy, quick gift knit. So I'd recommend scrunchies for your pals if you're looking for a little gift knit. So after knitting all those gift knits, I was ready to focus back on what I wanted to knit for myself. I had seen on Tall Tale Makes podcast that she had been unwinding commercial sweaters and then using that yarn to knit up. And I was completely sold on the concept, and I think as I was watching her video I bought a sweater to unravel. I'm all for sustainability and also all for saving money, and it's a much cheaper way of getting yarn, so that's what I did. So I bought a cashmere sweater on Vinted. This was 100% cashmere sweater from Banana Republic originally. I ended up with 550 grams of cashmere. The closest comparable yarn that I could find was Cardiff Cashmere Small, which for the equivalent amount of Cardiff Cashmere Small, it would have cost me £352, and this jumper cost me 18. So I think this is a really economical way to get yarn, and I've bought a lot of secondhand sweaters since with the intention of unwinding them to make new garments. I also think it's a really great way to use up all these gorgeous natural fibres that are in styles we just don't wear anymore. I don't really want to be buying jumpers that I would wear as they are. I'd much rather buy something that feels a bit dated, maybe it's got a couple of bits of damage, and then I can make it into something that's new and has value again, even if that value is only to me. But yeah, I've been buying up kind of bottom of the barrel bits and bobs on Vinted and in charity shops to rework into new garments, and that's something I'm really excited about in the future. So because I wasn't using a commercial yarn, And by this stage I was feeling a bit braver. I self-drafted this. I'd been looking a lot at the Ophelia sweater, which has got this really nice back detail. The decreases on the sleeves are really, really rapid at the bottom, which gives it a kind of a more unique sleeve shape. So I based a few of the details on that, and I love how it came out. It's so soft, it's so comfy. I wear it all the time. Basically every day I'm either in this or my legs, and that's me. It is so soft, so comfy. I worked it with a European shoulder, so learned from my Maggie, and I just kind of kept going until it got to about the right dimensions for me. I knew I wanted it to be oversized, so the shoulder would drop down slightly, and nice and roomy in the body, which I achieved. I did 2x2 rib on this, and I managed to get some really nice details in that ribbing, so it kind of follows on into my increases on the shoulder. Down the back, it follows straight into that back detail. So I was really pleased with how that turned out. It's gone really neatly. And again, in the decreases on the sleeve, that flows really nicely into the ribbing too. Did a slightly longer rip on the cuff, which gives that kind of cinch that I wanted on the sleeve shape. And overall, I am so happy with this. It was a labour of love because it was knit on 3mm needles for all the stockinette, and then I went down to 2.5 for the ribbing. It was slow progress, but totally worth it. And honestly, I think people don't realise that I've made it. I'm not sure whether that's a good thing or not. So even after knitting a whole sweater out of that yarn, I still had quite a bit left. So I cast on the Nomad scarf by Susanne Muller, and I really enjoyed it. I wanted a kind of hooded scarf. I felt like that was something that I didn't have in my wardrobe. Be nice and cozy, easy to throw on with different jackets, and that's exactly the job that it's been doing for me. I really like this design. It's knit in half brioche. The brioche gives it a really lovely squishy texture, and the kind of shaping on the tails of the scarf is really cute. Pretty straightforward and not too hard to get your head around. So although I used the same yarn as I did for this sweater, I held it double here. So it's a little bit heavier, cozier, thicker, and it knit up more like a kind of DK weight, whereas this was very much fingering. And then the final thing that I've finished making for myself in my first year is another pair of socks. So I wanted some. Everyone else was saying how good they were. I wanted a pair, and I wear these all the time. I really, really like them. They're so cozy. I feel like the wool, your feet just don't get sweaty. They just stay warm. It's lovely. I knit these up in West Yorkshire Spinners Signature 4-ply. I bought 3 colours of this yarn in a local yarn shop with the plan to kind of use them interchangeably to make a bunch of different socks, which I've started doing. So I've got this pair, I've got another pair on my needles right now, and hopefully some more in the future. But these were just the I'm So Basic socks by Camile, classic sock recipe, and they came out really nice. Really pleased with them. I'd already knit those other couple of pairs of socks by this point, so I was fairly familiar, but I found Summer's tutorials and videos really, really clear, really helpful. I've heard 100 other people recommend her, but I would do the same. So if you do want to learn socks, definitely have a look at her patterns. And so this is my first year of knitting. I've really, really enjoyed it. It's been a huge learning curve, and I've got so many plans for what's to come in the future. I'd love to know if you've recently started knitting, what kind of projects are you working on, what skills would you like to learn? For me, 2 big things that I feel are a gap here are cables and Fenral colour work, so I'm really hoping to tick those off in the next few months and hopefully share about it here. I'm working on a project that I'm quite excited about at the moment, so hopefully you'll stick around and hear more about that. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.